importance of the report called Godgill report. Please. You ask with that.
Thank you. So, Chairman and Guru Swamiji has already told me to reduce as much possible, and it's a really chilling climate here. So some of you might feel like sleeping. So please, in fact, this is a very interesting topic. Many of you are aware of both the reports. There are a lot of has been said about it. I would like to put it in a different dimension. Prior to these two reports, what really transpired is very little known. Therefore, I will first show some slides about what exactly transpired about 2 decades before the Ghats Commission was requested to prepare this exercise, and subsequent report by Kasturirangan. Can I have the first slide, please? Now, everybody knows this picture. The upper portion, this Western Ghats is not uniform, the first thing. Western Ghat has at least 4 separate land masses, topographically different, climatologically different. So, in the upper portion, there are 2 Western Ghats, Southern Western Ghats and Northern, entirely different, biodiversity-wise, geomorphology-wise, and agroclimatic conditions-wise. So, we don't consider it is one and the same. So, in the south, we have mountains, peaks, and valleys. In the northern Western Ghat, north of Goa, we have plateaus, lateritic plateaus. And therefore, the scenario windward side on the west and eastern side entirely different. Next, please. Now, these valleys we see, essentially when we see the valleys, this is in the northern Western Ghats, fully covered by vegetation. I don't know how many thousand years you have that kind of a thing. This vegetation, climax vegetation, takes at least about 600 years to reach to this climatic climax. And that can be removed in one day. Therefore, I'm not going to show you many pictures because there is a very drastic scenario. Next, please. Next, please. So, I will just start with what exactly transpired earlier. And a short span. In 1972, the 6 states in the 5th plan, Chief Minister's Committee was appointed for all the states in the Western Ghats, and that to decide about Western Ghats hilly area conservation strategy. Now this is a contradiction. The same states are fighting about not having any conservation plan or eco-sensitive zone plan. In fact, initiated this process in 1972. It's a record and a lot of reports are there. 74, a high-level committee recommended economic development policy for the Western Ghats. That is again these 6 states, 6 chief ministers. Followed by 79 and 1980, Western Ghats Developmental Plan was discussed in the Apex Committee, and through the 6th plan, ecology of Western Ghat was considered as essential element for development. Just see the words, essential. I'm not taking title of the report. Essential element for development of the region and local people. That is the eco-development model proposed for the first time here. Now, there is a 180-degree shift subsequently. Just see. In 80, the Planning Commission, Government of India decided a special developmental policy, not plan, for the eco-sensitive area in the Western Ghats and identify Western Ghats region and publish its official maps for the first time. There was dispute about the Western Ghats area and boundaries. The official plan maps were prepared and submitted. Next, please. In 83, Dr. Swaminathan Committee appointed by the Planning Commission to prepare Western Ghats Developmental Plan. And this development plan is entirely different. This is eco-development plan than the rest of India. And later, again, the same area was considered hilly area development plan. The committee recommended specific criteria for development in the eco-sensitive areas, that in the Western Ghats. What is to be done, what is not to be done, how much funds are to be given. Now, these special grants from the Government of India are allowed to the 6 states for integrated eco-development in the eco-sensitive Western Ghats. The policy continued till the drift in the policy of the present central government. So money has been given. Even if you are opposing that, we are taking the money for the special. This is a contradiction again here. Openly they are opposing, in newspaper they are opposing, but crores of rupees are accepted, but not spent on the Western Ghats. They are diverted for other projects in the state. In 85, a detailed Western Ghats regional plan was prepared as a model for regional plans. In the Western Ghats, state-wise 5 sub-regions by regional planning division, town and planning, country planning organization, Ministry of Works and Housing. So the apex body prepared master plans, regional plans. Regional plans are, for 20 years, 30 years, considering the expected growth, expected requirements of the population in the area. Even today, this report is a basic guideline while preparing regional plan, RP, for next 20 to 30 years. And this RP is binding while preparing the local development plans, which are for 3 to 5 years. Now I had an opportunity to work with RPs and also 3 DPs. These are like Bible, it's like a Bible. You have to follow it, mandatory, constitutionally. Now, at one side, we are still following this process. And other side, we are totally opposing it. It's a very strange scenario. Next, please. Now, some initiatives are interesting. Initiative in declaring Western Ghats an eco-sensitive area, ESA. There are different nomenclatures subsequently. 2000, Ministry of Environment appointed Pranab Sen Committee, which finalized 20 criteria for identification of eco-sensitive area, ESA, in the country. Very scientifically done. Big document is there. Now that is followed by all the states in the Western Ghats and declared eco-sensitive area in 2001. In Maharashtra, there are first 3, this is interesting, Mahabaleshwar, Panchgani and Matheran. In Mahabaleshwar is the origin of river Krishna. And who did it? Bombay Environmental Group. And the NGO fought in a court and by saying that all the 20, even if one criteria out of the Pranab Sen Committee is qualified, is met by the region, it is to be called as eco-sensitive. In this area, 16 out of 20, it is qualified for that. So then they went to the court of law, and through court's intervention, this area has been declared as a special eco-sensitive area, and even today these are eco-sensitive areas and properly managed with a committee. We are talking about the central committee, and there's a committee. In 2002, Sahyadri Ecology Sensitive Area, SESA, which I was associated with, a strong initiative by 25 NGOs and institutions from Maharashtra, Goa, Karnataka submitted a joint proposal to Ministry of Environment. Ministry approved it. We had to make presentations there. We had with us General Sir Deshpande from Karnataka, Maharashtra was me, and Mr. Cloud Alvarez, a lawyer from Goa. And we made a strong presentation there. Mohan Ram committee was appointed. Mohan Ram is a botanist, senior professor from Delhi University. They visited the committee with Director BSI, Director ZSI, Chief IG Forest, and Secretary Environment. Top-notch committee came, visited all those areas we wanted to show them, and then recommended the proposal, 10% proposal to the ministry. In 2010, rejuvenation of State Western Ghats movement at Uti was attended by Jairam Ramesh, you mentioned in the morning, and a fine person. The minister came all the way from there because we protested and said nothing is happening. You come and see, and he went through the report. He was thoroughly convinced. He came there and he said, immediately I will appoint a committee. and I will look into it, and I will see that government takes a serious interest in it. He appointed Professor Gadgil to decide about the eco-development protection in the Western Ghats. His portfolio was changed for supporting the green NGOs, whose position, Jairam Ramesh. And he was given a ministry with much larger funds that came in the paper. So why we look after a small kind of a ministry? You now look after, I think, urban development or some committee with rural development with massive funds and given. And even afterwards, Gadgil committee, he wrote again in a personal capacity, the report is to be accepted. Where am I? Yes. Then 2011, South Maharashtra eco-sensitive area, that is looked after by me. We prepared two proposals. One is for S, South Maharashtra, that is for the Western Ghats, and C for the coast, Ratnagiri and Sindhudurga, two coast area, and investigated by Devarai Development Research Awareness and Action Institute. And the projects reports have been accepted by WWE and then again submitted to MOF, and they have accepted. Next, please. So this is all the background. In 12, due to pressure from corporate sector and local political leadership, MOF appointed high-level working group, that is Dr. Kasturi Rangan committee, as we say, to suggest implementation of Western Ghats report. See, title is very interesting, the mandate in the letter. To suggest implementation of Gadgil committee's report at the earliest. Apparently, this was a delay and dilute the WGE report. This was deliberately done after 1 year, and this Kasturi Rangan report, I can't read from here, reduce the ecosystem area as well as significantly, and also diluted the norms. See, the mandate was very clear. Kasturi Rangan was not asked to prepare a new report. He was just asked to see exactly how Gadgil report is to be implemented. Okay? Then in 12, Western Ghats were inscribed as Natural Heritage Site of International Importance by UNESCO. See, in the same year, with 39 protected areas, the wildlife sanctuaries existing all along in the Western Ghats, one of the largest such recognized sites in the world. This is the highest level of acknowledgement by UNESCO. But this is interesting. This was after 4 years of Indian government's persuasion and consistent efforts to global level. What a contradiction. See, 4 or 5 times our proposal was rejected at the global level. Government of India tried best, and ultimately at St. Petersburg meeting, it was inscribed. So when this was happening, on one side, Government of India, on the other side, they were cutting, the initiatives of the NGOs as well as the official reports from Professor Gadgil. In 2013, Ministry considered much lenient report from Kasturi Rangan committee on Western Ghats, reduced 60% of its original area. When I say original area, means Gadgil reports area, and buffer of protected areas from 10 kilometer to 1 kilometer. Now, this was not haphazard. The distinction between this, Gadgil personally visited most of the area, in some of the remote areas on foot, walking 2 to 3 days. Kasturi Rangan prepared a report with only satellite imageries, no ground truthing. It is mentioned also, only satellite imageries. Because his mandate was clear. He knew that there was no point going in the field because he was given clear picture what was to be done. I know Professor Gadgil and Kasturi Rangan both very well. I work with them. And individually they are fine, but there were constraints. From 10 kilometer, 1 kilometer, and also critically ecosystem area were left out of mining, industry, thermal power plants, biodiversity rich Dodamarg. I will just cite one example, Dodamarg, in Sindhudurga district. which is the only wildlife corridor connecting southern Western Ghats to northern Western Ghats. So corridor for tiger and now elephants or wildlife, dense forest. But somehow surprisingly that whole thing was carved out. It was not there in map at all. Everybody was surprised what happened, how did it disappear? It's a massive area, knowingly. Then we had to go to the ministry again, then they had to add it after 4 years. Despite both the reports and most of the ESA, as the Gadgil report was drastically reduced, the 6 Western Ghat states were reluctant to implement even the diluted Western Kasturirangan's recommendations. So this is again because the understanding with the central government was this has been reduced drastically, but Kasturirangan has said in a meeting also, now I can't reduce further because this is really, dense forests and areas which are shown by maps and it is a scientific evidence there. So I cannot dilute further. But despite that, the 6 states were not willing. Interestingly, all the 6 states had different political ideologies. So their agenda was one. The people get carried away by reading the media, fake media news. Reality is, whichever is the government, they had certain concerns. Their priorities are much different than what you and me talk about. Therefore, they agreed only on one point, refuse the report. Let us go our own way and make money. Strongly opposed them. This was because of combined pressure of the mining, industrial, corporate lobby, politicians, and apathy on the part of administration. Next, please. The central government, due to apathy towards environmental protection and its inclination towards development, drastically relaxed most of the existing environmental regulation. Now, this is happening now in last 2-3 years. You will find every environmental law is been reduced, such as rather strengthening the laws. Mining laws are reduced, pollution industries, thermal power plants, roads, jetties, urban areas, and other infrastructure. Everywhere, the EIA regulations are reduced and related developmental projects were abruptly approved in the eco-sensitive coastal regulation zone, CRZ, RRZ, river regulation zone, other ecosystem, including in the most critical areas in the Western Ghats. Openly, state and central government ministries call even the weak environment regulation as biggest hurdle in development. This is on record. This is on government record, central government record. The ministries have to look into such a way that they should request the environmental ministry to be little lenient. There is opposition. Now then when this single window started, single window means I come from a place called Kolhapur, and when our then environmental minister was elected and he got that portfolio from Pune. I forgot the name of gentleman. He is no longer with the present BJP government. He was from Pune. So, you remember name? No. No, Rao. Javadekar. And he was felicitated there, very first, within 2 or 3 days. And he said, openly said, this has come in newspaper also. He said, last week I was busy. I've cleared 300 proposals of big companies. So development only. And I have removed these hurdles. And henceforth there will not be hurdle. You are a minister for environment. You are not industry minister to get great pride in it. So this is very clear. The agenda is very clear. Next, please. Now this is about the statistic. No, it's not interesting. There is no time. Please go ahead. Go ahead, please. Next. Now this is the interesting major recommendation. See, report, is 522 pages. It's a huge report in English. Extensive field work in the area and consultation with locals in the most hilly region in ecological sensitive area. That was a strong point of Gadgil report. The report has classified the 102 taluks in the Western Ghats boundary and ecologically sensitive, eco-sensitive zone 1 and 2. He made 3 zones, 1 and 2 very sensitive and 3 rather lenient. Yeah. Then eco-sensitive zone 1 being the high priority, almost all developmental activities there, that is mining, thermal power plants, etc. was restricted in it. The report recommended that no new dams based on large-scale storage by permitting the ecologically sensitive zone 1 since both this year, Alapathy and Kerala and Gundia in Karnataka hydel projects sites fall in ecological sensitive 1 and therefore project should not be completed or accorded environmental clearance. That was clear and that was stopped then. The report specifies that the present system of governance of this is important, environment should be changed. It asks for a bottom to top approach right from Gram Sabha rather than a top to bottom approach. It also asks for decentralization and more powers to local authorities, as we discussed. Clearly it is mentioned, one chapter, big chapter. It says this is the forest belonging to the people. It is there because they have conserved it for generations. You are following the British policy. Britishers came here not to protect the forest, but to exploit the forest. And still we continue the same thing, though he had mentioned this was the heartburning for many people. They didn't like the language, the administration, the planners. And secondly, the report recommended constitution of a Western Ghats Ecology Authority as a statutory authority under the Ministry of Environment and Forest. So this is again not accepted to the government because they said, what are we going to do? What about our powers, our discretion? That will not be there. And authority will be people like the professor and somebody, intellect people and committed people. And they can be easily bribed or this thing. So no, they are against these two important points. Next, please. And now what are the criticism? There was also criticism, it's not praises, and a lot of criticism. The major criticism faced by the report was that most environment friendly and not in tune with the ground realities. Now, if somebody, an expert, if those of you who are not familiar with Madhav Gadgil, he is a professor from Harvard University, born and brought up in Pune, traveled extensively in the Western Ghats since childhood, and a son of a Gadgil was not chairman, vice chairman of the first planning commission. Upbringing is different. All stalwarts, wranglers and other high-ranking people from his family. So he's a different kind of a person. And even then, the earlier government had given him Padma Bhushan. He was advisor to the government of India, Prime Minister. Okay? So he was not somebody picked up just like that. Internationally very famous. When I was to introduce you in one meeting, and I asked for a CV, it was 34 pages CV. So it's so many, 300 scientific papers in top journals in the world. Professor Harvard came back as a pool officer in Pune. He went there, Harvard as a student, he did PhD, he was associate professor, offered professor post, resigned it and came back to Pune and started working as a pool officer on 200 rupees a month. He said, I will work in my own country. And then he came to Institute of Science and became professor and then head of theoretical studies. So integrity, no question, nobody. So when he went there, he recommended was cited as a impractical to implement. Now, if any change, you resist change. That is our nature. But if it's a good change and done by a right person at the right time, you have to consider that. No, don't accept in total, but you consider it at least. You can't just shelve it and say, no, not impractical. Impractical because exactly opposite what they expected. The report has asked for complete eco-sensitive cover for the Western Ghat. It is not practical, which hampers different state on energy and development fronts. Because this was already committed. This is interesting thing, that already committed uh, miners, companies from the country and abroad, that open economic policy, and therefore it was troublesome. There was a criteria against the constitution of the committee, as we said. Instead, that protection can be given under existing laws. Question mark, existing laws are being diluted. So what protection are you offering under existing laws? So what he suggested, certain laws have to be strengthened, streamlined, involve local people, make local committees, strengthen the hands of the foresters, give them enough funds, whatever it is. But they said, no, that won't be done. The report doesn't give a solution to revenue losses. This is mentioned. Revenue losses, they want more money and revenue losses. Like as I said, I was discussing in the afternoon, we still are following the British system. The Department of Revenues and Forest. Revenue generation is not intention of the forest conservation. It is clearly mentioned even today, as on today, the Revenue and Forest Department. Okay? Collector is a collector to collect money, revenue. Since British times. We are not changed in the last 75 years. He's still a collector. He has been given special position of district magistrate. Because if somebody doesn't pay, he can sue him and get the money. Now is a high time to change. Because it has not delivered goods as we expected in the last 75 years. It's our country, our administration. So, we did not accept this kind of a change. Now, the report is against dams in the Western Ghat, which is a crucial blow on the, what is this gone out? Ailing power sector. They say that we have to have big dams, and we know even today how much, 7% or 8% of the electricity generated from hydro projects. Most of our power is thermal power. Okay? So, and we don't have good sites left now for large dams. All the good dam sites have been exploited. And the most important, the report adversely affected the various mafia. Now we use the term officially mafia, because there are in every big in the business, you have middlemen, you have people who can make two ends meet, and these are the people who are very close to the seats of power. When the Gadgil Committee report was first made public, there were a lot of protests against it from the sand mining and quarrying lobbies in Goa. First, they were powerful. They said nothing doing. We are not going to accept it. Unfortunately, Goa government used to depend heavily on revenue from mining. Now, second, tourism. So therefore, Goa government could not say much. It's a small place. Many mafia created fear among the farmers in Kerala. Deliberately, it was misinformed that the report is against them, and they will lose livelihood. It is recommendations are, if the recommendations are implemented. Now, I was being a research person with my students from the university. They were doing doctorate, 7 of them. We were moving in the field in the Western Ghats, and we had free access to the locals because we used to go there for the last 20, 30 years. And then we found, and they said, sir, the people had come, and they told us about this, that plastic is going to be banned, and they are going to remove all the plastic furniture from our houses. I said, bullshit. Plastic is banned in a city, and 10 micron and all that, but poor people did not know about it. They said that they will take your land away. Must just see that it will be difficult. If it is about 2 lakh rupees worth, they will give you 1 lakh and snatch the land from you. You better wait for 4-5 years, and we will give you a better price. 5 lakh rupees, 6 lakh rupees. And these poor innocent people ask us, so what should we do? Then, what Gadgil says, and as per the rules, the Gram Panchayat have to give acceptance by everybody's signature that we want eco-sensitive zone or we do not want. Now these forms were already filled in and signs of the Sarpanch were taken in many of these. People came of certain parties and their touts and they gave them money already. And we said, you must have signed. They said, no, what are you talking about? No meeting, तो मीटिंग हुआ नहीं इधर. अरे भाई आप तो पहुंच गए आपका रिपोर्ट से उधर. Everybody has signed. 500 people were present in the meeting. These many ladies, these many gents. Forest people, forest guards, rangers were sent in the villages, and they also convinced the people. Now it is very risky affair. Okay, so you oppose this. We are not going to take care of the wildlife and all that, as if they take care of it. So it was this psyche, and unfortunately, media, not all, but some media, which are purchased, they had bold blocks, capital, and then later articles about how bad, how serious the report is. This was all planned. Next, please. And hidden agenda, the darker side of this, the whole atmosphere. MOF kept the Gadgil report in safe custody for 8 months. We asked, even though we were involved in it, we asked in a public interest litigation, RPI, give us the report, no response. Month with them, it was not available for public discussion as expected by the committee members of the same committee. No, were not made available. When people asked for a copy, but the ministry said it couldn't be given, even when the RTI petitions were filed. It was not given. Only after Delhi High Court was approached, the court passed an order. The ministry released the report very reluctantly. The reports should be kept on a website. Now you can imagine remote villages. No, even we have difficulty in getting the internet here. What would be the situation there? Report, 522 pages report in English to be read by someone and then write the complaint and write to ministry. It was, they took every precaution to see not a single complaint will come. 522 pages report by a common man whose life is likely to be affected by the report. As many mafia created fear among the people that the report is anti-farmer and anti-people. Thus, people burned the committee report and effigy of well-known environmentalist Professor Madhav Gadgil. The problem was that most people had not read it. Who bothers to read a 522-page report in English? Because even in academics, we don't read big reports. So it is expecting to somebody else reads the big report is wrong. And therefore, the mining lobby took advantage of this delay in information aspect and mislead the people. Now during this 1.5 years time, mining was going on. They knew, they had a fear. Perhaps there is a ban, we have to exploit as much as possible. So they were removing trees, not only mining, all the development, so-called developmental activities went on. The convenient to people against the report in their favor. The lobby told the people that the report was against farmers and they would have to leave the area. It made locals worry. For the simple reason, this is again government fault, that in major dam cases, dam affected people, rehabilitation has not taken place even after 25 years. 25 years the people are struggling legitimately, and now others see they are been removed from there. 25 years, nothing has happened. In wildlife sanctuaries, people who are willing to go out as per forest department's required persuasion, and that area will be available for wildlife because their man and wildlife conflict will reduce. People are willing to go out with whatever compensation they are to be given. Deliberately they are ignored and they are allowed to stay there for the simple reason, the two reasons. One reason is always making a plea saying that there are poor people there, they are uh, who are Adivasis are staying there. So we have to make roads, telephone lines. The Adivasi, that village, none will have a vehicle. Nobody is taking electricity. They don't need, the lifestyle is different. But for putting this thing, 40 kilometers power lines there, you spend huge amount of money. There are people, 40% is a standard kickback. This is given to us by somebody from inside, 40%. If the road is going to take about maybe 2 lakh rupees, 80,000 are to be distributed first. That road in a heavy rainfall area in the Western Ghats will be wiped out in 2 years. Again, you have fresh budget because you have not to keep the people deprived. Okay? So this is a continuous process. Patient, serious, critical, IV, but ensure that he doesn't die and he doesn't survive. See, both the things are there. So next, please. Now, Kasirangan report. It is in controversy committed with Gadgil report by a few. With this background, that another committee was appointed by ministry. Mandate of the new committee was same as I said earlier, to study Professor Gadgil committee report, review and suggest measures for implementation. Not asked to prepare a separate report on his own, but that was done. This is a violation. The name of the committee was, of course, Kasirangan report, because Dr. Kasirangan. Another interesting here, the head is a ISRO scientist, ISRO director, not an ecologist. Okay? Because there you need to do ground truthing. You have to have some information or knowledge about wildlife, local people, their livelihood, their interaction. This person is a ISRO person. Okay, next please. Now, what are the reports? Instead of the total area of co-sensitive Western Ghats, only 37% of the total area be brought under ESA, not 1, 2, and 3 grades. Only ESA, one junk. A complete ban on mining, quarrying, and sand mining in ESA. That they are interesting. Distinguish between cultural 58% occupied in the Western Ghats area by like human settlements, agriculture fields and plantation, and natural landslides remaining 90% of it should be come under ESA according to the committee. So the first new clause is a cultural area. Now cultural area means the villages inside. They should be there. They should not be removed. So if they are to be there, all the facilities are to be provided to them, infrastructure to be given to them. So you keep the status quo as it is. And only some area, that is again gimmick is there, forest area. Now forest area is not an area of forest. The land with forest department. In a large proportion of forest land has no forest. But it is a land with the forest. But then there again, mistake was there. Current mining areas in ESA should be phased out within the next 5 years. So indirectly within 5 years, they should remove all these minerals. So it is official that they are being given 5 years. Or at the time of expiry of mining lease, whichever is earlier. In this category, most of the mines, those have almost completed their minerals, will be continued, will not be continued. So not much damage. No thermal power plant will be allowed, and hydropower projects are allowed only after detailed study. Now again detailed study, because I have also been involved in the ministry's expert panel on EIA. We have found out in almost 60 to 70% of the cases, EIA is not done. Real true EIA is not done. This impact assessment is based on earlier reports and done. When the committee goes there, sometime then they will say that this is not complied with and some action is to be taken. The file lies there for 4 or 5 years, nothing happens. Now, AI has been removed altogether. AI is not required. The company The project has to give an undertaking that we will not done or do any pollution, and 5 years, only after 5 years, the guarantee for 5 years. So if you come to inspect after 5 years, already damage has been done, you can't do anything. Because first 5 years, when is a crucial period, no one can take any claim. You allow them to go ahead as it is. This is the new compliance, according to the committee. Current mining area in the EI should be okay. We've seen that. No thermal power, again. Red industries, that is, which are highly polluting, be strictly banned. Strictly banned. New industries, existing industry, what about them? They should be continued. Secondly, like sugar industry, it is because agriculture industry, EIA should be mild. So pollution done by sugar industry, in our area there are several sugar industries, our sugar belt, and lot of pollution, very difficult to stop them. Now they have been given permission to go for ethanol, power alcohol, and huge plants. Each one has established huge plants. No EI is required because it is green. So wind turbines, no EI is required. But all wind turbines are on the top of the hill. And you should see the blade, length of a blade is 110 feet. And if the blade is to be taken, 3 blades and again the 3 components of the tower, huge tower, 100-meter tower, then you require big trucks and containers. And the containers have to go to the steep slopes. You have to have big network of roads. And then you go and install with big cranes. And every year you have to maintain them. So you have a network of roads on very steep slopes and forest area, but no EI is required. No public hearing is required. Okay? Straightway. So, Kasturirangan report on the Western Ghats has made several pro-farmer recommendations. Pro-farmer means nothing is to be done. Chalta hai scenario. So, it's a pro-farmer. There's no special recommendations, including the exclusion of inhabited regions and plantations from the previous of ecologically sensitive areas. Now, when I say plantation, underline plantations, traditionally we did not have oil palm or rubber plantations. Now, oil palm, rubber, even mango, plantations are coming by cutting the virgin forest. So, plantations are allowed, but they are not talking about biodiversity anywhere and ecological sensitivity. Apparently, good but hidden agenda, access to poachers, miners, mafia. The Kasturirangan report had 120 villages fall under the ESA purview. But this too is not acceptable to Ministry of Environment and Forest due to diverse pressures. This is from one senior officer from ministry. He said, even this is even the mildest possible report is also not acceptable. Next, please. Next. Okay. The project proposal sanctioned or submitted before 17/4/12 MOUF can be considered. So they had some margin left there. No EIA, this is 2021, no EIA and public hearing required for most of the industries, only a committee from industry that no pollution will be done and such a certificate will be provided after 5 years. This is the undertaking the company has to give. Nobody will come. Local people, even they go to court, not valid because EI is not required, public hearing is not required. And that is exactly what Gadgil wanted. Gadgil said, Gram Sabha is there, they have got first right to say what should come in their area, what should not come to the area. It is their forest. The sacred groves, they have protected the sacred groves. Okay? So they are in coexistence with nature and they know how to handle it. Ban for loss of revenue and not for ecology concerns. Now this is important. Whatever is banned is because the revenue generation was not as per the expectation, therefore it is banned. Not because it is likely to damage ecology of the region. This is it. Illegal mining, stone quarrying, murum aggregate and sand extraction, 5 hectare allowed. Beyond. Now 5 hectare is an interesting thing. Now in a family, He will say, this is my daughter's 5 hectare, this is my brothers, cousins. So in reality, they will explore something about 22 or 30 or 40, whatever is the hectares. But by showing 5 hectares each, no, this thing, full exemption. Thermal power plant, air and water pollution, that is huge, cannot be hidden, and it is permissible. Red category industry, now diluted by downgrading. Those some of the red category industries are no longer red category industry, they are orange, some of from orange to green. Construction projects up to 20,000 square meter and above, then only objection. Township projects 50 hectare or 150 hectare projects other than above, if implemented in ESA, would require cumulative impact assessment and rapid EIA. No EIA can be a rapid EIA because you have to see the changes, annual change in the pattern, ecological pattern, migration pattern, crop pattern, and then you can make comprehensive EIA. If you go there today and you say, today I saw, but there is no tiger. So, no tiger in the area. Or maybe there is no crop there, no crop. That is the report. So, rapid EIA had been banned earlier, but now rapid EIA has been allowed. So, there is question mark. So, it is just diluted, and what we talked about earlier. Next, please. And now criticism is now well known. The use remote sensing and aerial survey methods for zonal demarcation of land in the Western Ghats. The use of such technique without examining the ground reality has caused many errors in the report, just like the entire taluka was missing. The power is vested with the bureaucrats and the forest officials and not with the Gram Sabha expected in Panchayat Raj, which is past resolution. Many fear that the farmers would get evicted if the Kasturangan committee report is implemented. This again, some people feel it is a serious way. Under this report, the mining and quarrying lobbies are expected to flourish. When these lobbies and tourists flourish, it will be disastrous to the environment. There will be water shortage, pollution. Finally, farmers will have to quit the area. They will not be able to do farming there or will not get any compensation as well. This is ultimately. If the forest department wants to throw them out, if dam wants to, they have to get compensation. And rate of compensation has been increased 5-folds. Now, if this thing happened, they remain there, and tomorrow a situation will be there that they will have to go out, they won't get a farthing. Okay, so the villagers did not know about it, they were not told about it. Other threat in the Western Ghats, recent threat for last 2 years and now henceforth, is the tourism industry. In Western Ghats, the priority industry is the tourism industry. So many of the pristine areas, hill stations have been taken over, purchased by the big industries, hoteliers, and people from outside the state, corporates. And they're going to have, these areas develop. And develop in a way the 3-star, 5-star hotel like. This will not be a bread and a breakfast kind of a thing with a local person. They are massive resorts, and you must have seen advertising on newspapers everywhere. So this industry is flourishing because governments are supporting tourism industry. It will be disastrous, that's what I say, and again the shortage. The use of erroneous method and cause inclusion of many villages under ecological sensitive area, though they were only rubber plantations and not forests. Even some of the supporters then complained about Kasturangan. What you showed as a forest is our, plantation. So you don't apply your norms to us, our plantation. Kasturangan report included ecological non-sensitive areas like SEA and left out many ecological sensitive areas. Next. Okay, I will not go further. Now this is a picture. What you see red is a forest. This is Western Ghat joint in Maharashtra. Left side Arabian Sea. And you can see on the left, small green patches which you see are rivulets or streams and vegetation on the banks of streams. And then estuaries, backwaters, all along the coast. On the right side, you see purple color. These are the rivers originating in the Western Ghats. What has happened in last 20 years? What you see purple is a sugar cane, cash crop by lift irrigation. These dams, big dams down south, two big dams are the wildlife sanctuary. Radhanagari Wildlife Sanctuary, the first sanctuary in Maharashtra, established in 40s. So the two big dams. When our proposals were there, one of the lower dam was not there. It was dense forest. The entire block, north-south block, was a dense forest. They shifted the dams to the crest line almost everywhere you see. And in a command area, all the vegetation is gone. Everywhere. And therefore, by saying that now we are going to protect Western Ghats. Sorry. Stick, yes. Thank you, I forgot that. Thank you. See, hello. Yeah. From here to here was entire, on either side was a forest. There was dense forest. Now only this portion is left because that is with forest department. But it doesn't serve any purpose, neither for, especially for rivers. We were talking the other day about rivers. Entire river catchments are barren now. So you will have heavy silt load downstream. These dams, small dams, all along, there are number of them. Small dams and some medium dams, and there are big dams up there, a small portion. We will have silting, river basins are exposed. See, white is barren, no vegetation. Here, see the drastically, no vegetation, entire forest is gone, two dams, and then whatever little agriculture. So Western Ghat, somebody mentioned the different phases in the Western Ghat as we saw. Every 5 years, the damage or the destruction of the Western Ghats is exponential. Our development, so-called development, even if it is successful, it is in a linear fashion, exponential. And point of no return, the hypothetical point is very short. You told about 2030. You are very optimistic. Reason being, we go there and we really have tears in eyes. Wherever we say dense forest, we have got photographs, not a blade of grass now. And it is vanishing so fast. Last year, in a region of Kolhapur district where we have a basalt, Shivaji's area, very hard rock, we have a 430 landslides in 2 months' time. All 4 major ghats collapsed, totally collapsed in a valley. No traffic for 3 months. They never ever happened. So the exponential. Kerala, you have witnessed 2 years, massive landslides. Same thing is happening. We are worried now again, temperature going up. Even if you have heavy precipitation, maybe 3-4 days, continuously, the same thing is going to repeat. That we are not going to stop. We just can't. It is beyond our control. It is too late. In 1992, phases I have taken because Madam made a nice presentation in the morning. I was tempted to ask some questions, but I couldn't. Is that there are phases. Why? In 1972, Indira ji was in Stockholm and talked about poverty is the worst polluter or something like that, she said in her address, presidential address there. And that's true. She said poverty is doing it, but not only poverty, population rise. Nobody talks about it. Then that time everybody was worried in the West about biodiversity. We also we copied it, biodiversity. Gradually we are becoming wise, and that time I had an opportunity to be in Rio during Earth Summit all the days. I was representative, NGO representative funded by not the government of India, but I keep on UNDP? Yes, UNDP. And I found there very strange picture. India was trying to be, and of course, there's nothing wrong in it, leader of non-violent country's leader there. And India wanted to, or even today, want to have a berth in the Security Council. So every day evening, we were there for a month. 15 days was the conference. There used to be a meeting, specially arranged by Indian Embassy there, and Kamal Nath was our environmental minister then. And he was always interested to know what happened in NGO forum, what happened in different. The concurrently 25 to 30 meetings used to go, and he wanted feedback from everybody. And then he said, we have prepared a booklet, and which needs to be circulated. India's, how India is protecting. So the booklet, first half of the booklet talked about our culture and a prehistoric time, how rich our culture is, Vedas and all that, whatever it is, and good, and our temples and everything. The remaining half was about how India's efforts are successful in protecting our nature and environment. And last few pages were about how India has been able to not only protect but increase land under forest, good forest. And we said it's all bullshit. That is not true. Because we have seen in many areas the land and forest is gone. But we couldn't say it openly, we discuss. But this is the way in international fora you have to, we couldn't say, go against India and say this is wrong. That time, Mahathir Ahmad was then, even today he's there, but he's a strong headed and very able Prime Minister of Malaysia. And when our minister was making a presentation there, he said, okay, we have increased forest and everybody should follow India, do this, at least in the developing world. And Mahathir Ahmad said, India could do that because India is taking wood from us. So India is not cutting India's wood, timber, but they are taking timber from Malaysia, Malaysian teak, and from Africa. So this is what difference is there from British rule in India and India ruling us? You are exploiting somebody else's resources, and that is really true. Now, what the 6 states do not know, what kind of a natural heritage they have. There is no valuation of the natural wealth. And therefore, we have to, when we talk about river pollution and riverine conservation, rejuvenation, we have to think of this. The problem is not in the river bed down south in Karnataka, maybe in Tamil Nadu. The problem is here. This is the heart of our rivers. If this is gone, we are in bad shape. And I think this is already late. I'm not negative minded, I'm still optimistic, but we are losing time. As you rightly said, we are losing time. We have to come together. Our activities will have to be time bound. When we make the memorandum, it has to be time bound. Within 1 year, we have to reach this. 2 years, this. And our plan shouldn't be more than 1 year or 1.5 years. Too late. Because government's dilly-dallying, delays, by the time, as we see in mining, industries, things are damaging our ecosystem much faster. Okay? Thank you very much for patient hearing. Thank you.
Sir, should I ask some questions? Sir, no need of
Now, President is there. He will say.
Okay.
So, again, a wonderful presentation made by. Yeah. The question hour will be shortly starting. Before that, doctor has given. Please, sir. No, it's please. You should be honored, sir. Please, sir. Please. Not only that, sir and sir should be here to answer the. We can shoot questions so that they can answer. Before that, see what an amount of damage has been done to the environment is excellently. So we should salute Godgill sir. But for his effort, this type of reality might not have come out. Now, we being the elite group, It's our duty. As he has pointed out, it should be time bound also. So in the evening session, all the three presenters, they are given a new dimension. So that's wonderful. In the morning, it was extemporal. In the evening, I would say it's more scientific. Am I right? Yeah. So we will take this as a guideline for our discussion and for presenting the proposal to the government. See, I could not imagine. Now, one more point shall I expose? If all the 6 states join together, we can rule India. Do you believe? Yes, I will say strongly yes. Why? Because the tax given by these 6 states, do you know? Per capita tax is 20,000, whereas we are getting back only 7,000. Just imagine. Why should we pay 20,000? Get back 7,000 only. Now, I think I have exposed the harsh reality in the financial matter also. In this respect, we have to join together. No other methodology is there. If we join together, the 6 states can command respect even in the north. With this comment, I request our audience to shoot questions to the experts. So I request Dr. Sir also to be here and Mr. Wilson Sir also to be here. Please. So I think there will be quite interesting interaction will be there. Thank you very much.